In 1940, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed into law a military draft, which required every able-bodied man to serve.
With Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor the following year, it thrust America into the fight against the Axis powers. And aiding in the effort was a group of pioneers, the Plucky women of World War II.
Where will the United States Army get thousands more? Thousands to back up manpower for battle abroad. Who are the women who will help retain the needed manpower for the production battle at home?
They defied traditions.
Who are the women who will help fight our country's war?
We've never had an American draft for women, so any woman of any era who's ever served has volunteered to do so. I think that's outstanding.
Oh yes, it's your war too, Miss and Mrs. America.
Born to be soldiers. Bluffton author Kayleen Reusser's latest book shares over a dozen accounts of local women serving in World War II.
By the end of the war, 350,000 women had volunteered.
You'll find DECATUR's Kayleen Reusser on the front cover. At 100 years old, she remembers when she felt called to serve others.
Our senior class took a trip to Riley Hospital, and we went through the children's ward, and I said, "That's it. I want to be a nurse."
But her life forever changed during a shift at Lutheran Hospital on December 7th, 1941.
A date which will live in infamy.
We listened to that. We were spellbound. And that triggered me. And I thought, I want to help the war effort.
After completing her education in 1944, she enlisted in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps.
If you can imagine nurses taking basic training, we were greener than grass.
But serving in hospitals stateside, the grim reality of war soon set in.
I had a ward of paraplegic patients. At that time, we didn't have the technique or the knowledge to treat them.
Kayleen's kindness to the wounded often got her into trouble.
When you're dealing with soldiers and young men with injuries, I mean, you're a nurse first and officer second.
After the war, casualties overseas required urgent care. The first lieutenant continued her work in 3 countries before returning home, waiting decades to share her story.
I'm thinking of the GIs that were killed. I mean, just like D-Day. I can remember that so vividly. And all I did was help take care of them.
Eileen might think she was just a nurse, but when I was interviewing the men, they really respected the nurses. They knew they couldn't get well without them. So she wasn't just a nurse, she was like a hero.
Kayleen and the rest of the Plucky women of World War II spending the rest of their lives out in 21 countries.
My children said they found out more after I've been interviewed, but my husband and I never talked about it. We went ahead and got on with our lives, and I think most of our generation did that. That's why they call it the greatest generation, and I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Wow.
What a lady.
Really, yeah.
As you can imagine, there are so many interesting facets to Kayleen's story. Her 3 brothers also served in World War II. By coincidence, she saw her cousin in France all the way from Bern. Yeah, she married her husband, a military man, Master Sergeant Werner Zeissig, in 1947. You can find the stories of dozens of others in Kayleen Reusser's book, Born to be Soldiers. We've put a link to that book, as well as Kayleen's full interview on our website, WPTA21.com.
Wow.